Mhm. All right. Well, welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast. It's been a while
Thank
since you
you.
graced us with your presence today, Eva. How you doing
Yes,
today?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me here
You
again.
you look so relaxed. You look so relaxed in that chair. I mean,
Do
it's
I?
I
It
need to
is
get one of
very
those
comfortable.
chair.
Yeah. My husband's a gamer, and he was when he came here and he saw my chair, he's like, "You need a gamer chair," and I'm
Mm.
glad he did.
Yeah, it's pretty relaxing. Just kind of sitting
Yeah,
back.
it's very cool because you have cushions here, down here, so you always feel supported
Mm.
and straight. So pretty
Your
good.
back straight and everything.
Yeah.
Well, for those that don't know who Eva is, she's a writer. No, she's a published author. Let's
Now I'm a
cut that.
writer.
But you were an incredible writer though, because when we was writing
Oh,
together, I was
thank you.
like, Eva, man, like this is really good. Your stuff is good. You can write. You can really write.
It's in my blood. What can I say?
Yeah. How much is it in your blood? How much of it is in your blood?
I think a lot. I come from a family of writers and
Hmm.
just people in arts in general. Like, no one really dedicated their life to art except for this one relative, Elena Garro, who is very famous
Hmm.
worldwide, especially in Mexico.
Hmm.
Some people say even she's the greatest Mexican writer of all times.
Hmm.
But yeah. So her, but then besides that, my grandpa was into painting when he retired. My dad likes to write as well, and he's very creative, and he can play any instrument by ear. My great grandparent was super like virtuoso on the accordion and the harmonica. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's there, definitely there,
Hmm. Let me
especially
ask you
with
this.
music and writing. Well, I'm
Hmm.
painting. Like my aunt is also a painter as a hobby. She's also an author now. My cousins paint, my sister paints. I
Hmm.
tried painting, but it's not my thing. I'd rather do music or writing.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's there.
Why do you write?
I don't know, it's just something I've always had. I like the language. I think in general I like learning um how the language can be used for so many things, and I just think words are very powerful. Like you can either destroy life or make, a life
Hmm.
better with a word. So I think it's very powerful, and I've always liked to write. I've always had good grammar. I've always had good grades on when I had, Spanish classes or English classes. I was always the grammar police. It just comes natural. Of course, it's not that I'm perfect or I know everything, but I
Hmm.
do like to have a good use of the languages. I enjoy that.
How many languages you speak?
Just to.
Just two.
I tried learning Finnish when I lived in Finland,
Uh-huh.
uh, but then I realized, I was probably not going to use it that much. So, yeah, I learned a couple words, but that's it.
Uh, but your Spanish haven't fell off at all, then, man. You just keep.
No, no, no. I practice it. I mean, I speak Spanish at home and with my parents and with my husband and just
Mhm.
I live in Miami, so I think I
Mm.
speak more Spanish than English, to be honest.
Mm.
So yeah,
Well, let's jump into Dear to Ignite Your Dreams.
of
Um,
course.
that's one of I think that's one of the most awesomest book title out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I really
So,
like it.
yeah,
Not
I like
because
it too.
it's ours, but it's a good title.
It's a good title. It says a lot about everything. It
Yeah.
says a lot about everything. But my curiosity is because we haven't had a chance to really catch up. But after the book was published for you and it was out there, you go on Amazon, you check, and it's there. What was that feeling like for you?
It was kind of surreal. Like, nowadays it's relatively easy to get your stuff online.
Hmm.
Like anyone can do it, I mean.
Hmm.
But then you also realize not everybody does it. Like even if they can or if they know how to do it, it takes a lot of things to do it. Starting with just discipline to actually write something.
Hmm.
Um, knowing certain things on how to make it worth, like it's there, but now what? Like I have to
Mhm.
promote it and let people know.
Mhm.
And then depends on what you are writing on, but if you're being vulnerable, which was my case because it's my life story,
Mhm.
it was this like I did have the desire of just sharing my story just to see if it would help someone. Like I would be just happy to know that it'll help one person. Like that for me would have been it's just worth it.
Mhm.
But also, yeah, just opening up your story to the world. Like now it's literally a click away and anybody can read it. And it's in English, so it's even more
Mhm.
accessible to, more parts of the world. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's a weird combination of feelings.
Mhm.
And then also what I realized since our process was, in a sense short, because some
Mhm.
people take years to write a book.
Mhm.
Um, it was relatively short, then it's also that sense of, oh, like I am a perfectionist, like in rehab, I would say. So always, like this feeling of, oh, was it ready? Like, could I have done something different? Or maybe I should have added this or that. But then also just being at peace with what you did
Mhm.
at that moment, because like you're a different person every day.
Mhm.
And just like recognizing myself, like reading it after physically changes so much than reading it on the computer on your draft, like on your
Mhm.
PDF or whatever. It's I don't know, it's just like a weird feeling to have something physical with your name on it and your photo and everything. Um,
Mhm.
besides just buying it online, but like getting it, printed.
Mhm.
It's a great feeling. Yeah, I mean, I've always known I wanted to write something like and publish it. But I just thought, I was gonna be one of these people like, oh, when I retire or when I'm older and I have time or
Mhm.
I really did not expect to do it at this age or now in this point at this point of my life. So it's been cool. I really like the experience overall.
Well, thank you for taking on the challenge, the
Yeah.
courage to step out there and
Thank
share.
you for inviting me. And
Yeah,
it was on this podcast actually, so
it was,
yeah,
it
full
was, it
circle.
was. You never know who you're gonna meet.
Oh yeah.
Your people, your fan base, or because I'm a big believer in the six degree of separation. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
somebody leads to somebody, then it's lead to somebody before you know, like, this
Yep.
person I'm looking for. Even when I was talking to Dr. Colleen too, she was like, because I met her through my niece. It's interesting. I'll tell you her story real quick. So
Mm-hmm.
when I first moved here, I was down here. I was at my other sister's hanging out with her, and then my other sister lived on the other side of the town. So she was like, Ashley, when you gonna come hang out with me? You been hanging out with your other sister. Like, I haven't seen you in years, right? Because I retired from the military and I come on. So I came out here and she was like, well, come hang with me for a few months. I went over there. I'm like, man, I need somewhere to go like work out because I was just riding my bike back here. Then I got up there and then my niece was like, well, let's go to the gym to go to spin class. So I went there and then I was riding a little bit. And then I met Colleen was one of the instructors for a couple of different nights. And we started talking and stuff. We just chatting, whatever. Then after I left there, came back to hang with my other sister. And then I was like, hey, you want to write a book? She was like, okay, let's do it. And then after that, it was game. So you never know. So I felt like I went to that gym
Yeah.
just to meet her because I didn't stay there for too long. But it's interesting, like you just move around
Mm-hmm.
and just meet people and you move around. But that was really awesome for me to meet her there. So and then running into you on a podcast is like, all right, let's do this thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that sometimes you don't really think about what you're doing, on your
Mm-hmm.
everyday life. Like you just do stuff without thinking too much. And then after some time you realize, oh, maybe I just met this person just to meet this other person, or I went
Mm-hmm.
there just to meet this person. Like you realize how, I don't know if it's already written or what you actually think about fate, but it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to think that some things are just meant to happen just so something else can happen out of that.
Mm.
So, yeah.
I think that is another part of like the memoir process is that self-reflection piece. 'Cause you can look back at your life and you're like, wait a minute, I see all these things are connecting, all these things are adding up. I met that
Mm-hmm.
person, and that was the reason why I went there. So you start seeing those
Mm-hmm.
things. But once you start noticing those things, you start going into the future, you realize that, oh, this thing that's happening right now, I bet it has some kind of other connection that I'm just not aware of right now until later on. He's like, ah, I see why.
Hmm.
And sometimes I even smile to myself. I'm like, God is funny, you know. Sometimes he just do he's very sneaky. You know, I see all these things play. I'm like, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm seeing what you're doing. I see what you're doing. I see where you're going with this. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'm cool. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, agree.
Mm. So now that your book is out, um, what is in the future for you right now? Are you planning to write more?
Ooh. I do, I do. I really want to write about what I teach, which
Mm.
is related to females' health and the menstrual cycle and all that stuff.
Mm.
I feel like now I have this desire of writing about that more than just my own stuff.
Mhm.
Because I think that was just too much for me emotionally for now. I think I'm good for a while. It was a whole process, like it was like therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I've processed quite a bit out of that and healed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm gonna leave that now to the side. But yeah, I definitely want to keep writing, and I think it just you realize that it's possible. Like it's not as, as far away as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
Or you see other people doing it and you're like, nah, but I don't have that, or I'm never gonna be like that, or even me that I knew I had it in me, like that I was good at it and that I have my family and all this stuff. I still thought like, nah, like I'm not that kind of person. But
Mm-hmm.
you never know. So yeah, I think I definitely I will keep on writing. And then we'll see. I think I would also like to write a novel or something like that
Mm.
later. But I
Fiction?
feel like I do need more time, which I don't have at the moment.
Mm.
So for that, maybe it will be when I'm older, but you never know. Maybe it's next year or
You never know. You never
So, but
know.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's now part of my life for sure.
Hmm. I also thought about doing something fiction, but I don't know when. I had this one idea. I'm gonna share it with you too, because I was thinking about it a long time ago. I started writing it together, but I was trying to put the character profiles together. But
Mm.
I need to go to like get some education on it some more about that process.
Yeah,
But
me
I
too.
thought about just really doing something fiction to kind of put together like something where, because I'm a big fan of the, in Ghana, like whatever day of the week he was born, like they kind of like add that part that because every day of the week has a name. So if a person is born on a Monday, then they have a
Mm.
name for that day of the week they add to your name. So like you're born like on a Friday, it's like Kofi. It's like a male that born on a Friday, right? So in your name, I probably like Asher Kofi, something like that. But people remember what day of the week they was born. Because I remember when I was in the
Mm.
army, one of my supervisor, he was from Ghana. So I had asked him, like, do you remember what day of the year he was born? And he just said me like, yeah, I remember he was born on a Saturday. I'm like, how do you know it was a Saturday? Then he was like, yeah, because it was part of my name. So I never
Oh
forget it. And I
wow.
was like, interesting. So when I looked it up, I was like, wow, this is interesting. So I was like, what day of
Oh.
the week I was born? So I went and looked mine up. So I was like, oh my God. Oh, that's what day of the week that day landed on the day of the week. So it was interesting. So I thought about
Mm.
using those names, like
Mm-hmm.
character names in like a fiction and name the character based on those days of the week and give them certain kind of character and certain kind of profile. I thought about doing that. I was like, let me go figure out, sit down and think about it and create the profile for them and then start building out the story. I know that
That's
AI is
cool.
in town. I might be able to pull it off now since there's so many ways to do it. But I thought about that too. I was like, it'd be interesting to put that story together.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
in Mexico, they used to, back in the day, name people out of their saint's day name.
Mm.
So a lot of people have their saint name, depending on the
Mm.
day they were born.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, dear to ignite your dream. So, if I had to ask you, what was the story that emotionally take the most out of you to put to like really put on paper? Like, I'm a the emotional
Oh.
property that you was holding hostage. Like, okay, let me put it down. Like, which one was it?
I think there were two. So first, my disorder or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
the trichotillomania that I pull my hair out of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had it since at least consciously, since I was 16. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure when I started writing about it, so it was the first time with you actually talking. I think
Mm-hmm.
we recorded something else and it came out with you and Risha, and it was the first time that I would like tell someone that was not my
Mm,
family or a close friend. Like I think only like two or three close friends knew about that. So that was huge for me, like just being able to put it into paper and like let it go. Like it's out there and now I feel like it even lost control over me because I put it
mm,
out.
mm,
So that was hard, but at the same time liberating. Um, and just like being like, okay, like I don't care, anymore because of course this comes with a lot of shame and guilt when you're like younger and you think people are gonna judge you because oh you do this or they don't understand what it is or whatever. And I just realizing like whatever, like people don't care. And there are many other people that have it and they have reached out to me after reading
mm,
this, like, oh, I have this and I didn't know what it was. So it's been just very nice to be like, okay, I was a light for someone, like
mm,
I was able to create this space where people reflected on my own story and now they know what's happening to them. So
mhm,
that was very nice. And the other part I think was the actual migration story, like my the part where I started writing when I came to the US and all that process, which was very hard for me because of my age. I was a teenager. I loved my life at that point. Like I wasn't really forced to migrate out of necessity or like
mm,
running away from something or I mean, kind of, yes, but I migrated legally. Like, we had everything. Like, it was a little different from other Mexican stories that you might hear.
mhm,
So for me, it was really also very like healing and liberating to go back and like relive that as I was thinking about it in order to
mm,
write it and just like be at peace with that and like forgive everybody and everything and just, like
mm,
thanks to that, now I am the person that I am today. So just yeah, like making peace with that as well, like that process that was at the time very hard for me, and like I fell into a depression episode, and I even went back to Mexico because of that and all that stuff.
mhm,
But yeah, I think those two things were the
mm,
hardest, yeah, but at the same time the most rewarding.
mm. No, that was powerful to read too, by the way. I was like, wow, man. Tell you, you can write, Eva. You are really good. I hope one day you
Thank you.
decide to put, more of your, if you got more time to put into it, because like the way you
Hmm.
was framing your story, I was like, man, Eva, you good. This is so good. This is so
Yeah,
good.
I'd like to do that. And I also felt like, I mean, I'm only 30 years old. So it's like, I don't know, maybe later in life I would like continue this story because of course I stopped at this moment, right?
Hmm.
But maybe then in a couple of years or maybe even later, it would be interesting to make like a part two of that life that
Hmm.
was already written.
Mm. So let me ask you. So when you was first thinking about writing, which story particular that was like, if gotta write a book, this one gotta be in it. Like which one of the story was like, I gotta put that one in the book.
Oh. That's a hard one. I don't
Mm.
know.
Or maybe which story came to mind first that you're gonna write about.
Uh, well, I think it was also the migration, just
Hmm.
naturally because the group was about that. Like we were all immigrants and that was the
Hmm.
point. Um,
Hmm.
so that was I think the first thing that I thought about.
Hmm.
But I also liked how I started the book, like portraying the actual like social and economic and this like context
Hmm.
where when I was born, like for example in Mexico, that the year I was born, a lot of things happened in Mexico and like I think it was one of the
Hmm.
most intense years in like Mexican history, you could say.
Hmm.
So it was also interesting, researching all this stuff that was happening that you don't know because you're just being born and you don't know anything. But
Hmm.
and also like that really helped me be more compassionate with, let's say, my parents and
Hmm.
what they could actually do for me or not because of what was happening in the outside. So that was very, very interesting
I thought
to
so
go back
too.
and research that. Yeah.
Yeah, that when you made that spin on it, I was like, that's I never thought about that. Where you decide you're gonna figure out what was happening on your birthday, what was
Mm.
happening in the rest of the world. I was in your that was genius, by the way. I'll tell you. I was like, man. And then you bring all of that, tie that into your own journey. You showed up. Then you showed up. After all that was happening, you showed up. It's like having this whole firefight happening, and then you showed up in the midst of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's not a coincidence. I mean, I do believe in energies and that
Mm-hmm.
everything's meant to be and astral charts and all that stuff. So I was like, I might as well just, deep dive and see what was
Mm-hmm.
actually happening when I was born
Mm-hmm.
and why I was born that year and what am I
Mm-hmm.
supposed to do here, right?
Mm. I'll say if you listen to this right now, you should definitely go check out Eva book, Dear Ignite Your Dream, and the opening that you kind of like really brought all that context together, then you plug yourself in the midst of it. It's even the interesting thing because I know what Sadhguru, he talks about, maybe this can relate. Let me see how this play out. But he was talking about how sometimes we see yourself, like it was like if you look in the the galaxy, the Milky Way or the galaxy, right? And then you got so the galaxy, the Milky Way. One of them is above the other, right? But then the solar system, right? This galaxy in the solar
Mm,
system, like in the solar system, the galaxy is like a speck, right? And then planet Earth is like a microspec, right? Then you can look at Mexico is a super microspec. But then maybe that town you're in is even a super microspec. But in that town, there goes Eva. And in that town, Eva feel
mm,
like she's a big woman, right? But when you look at it from the universe's perspective, it's like,
mm,
you're small. But then you look around and see what was happening around you while you showed up in that moment. Just kind of
mm.
show the significance that, hey,
Yeah.
you showed up and you was part of all of this that was happening.
Yeah, that's a nice way to see it. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
we're everything and nothing at the same time, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like deep stuff, so
I
yeah,
can
I
tell. I
think you
can
can
tell.
tell.
Yeah, I can tell. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other part of the story that I enjoy reading too was when he was in Finland, because and
Oh
I lived
yeah.
in Europe for a while too, and I'm a big fan of Europe. But you did some research on that too, man. I was like, that was some
You know
good.
what's
You was paying
funny?
attention.
I actually didn't do a lot of research on that. I think I did more research on my own country, in Mexico,
Mm.
than Finland because Finland. When I
Mm.
lived there, I just learned when I was there, like so much because I was, discovering what was around
Mm-hmm.
me. And it had been my dream to go to Finland since I was like 12. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
why I felt this like really strong connection to that country. I've maybe in my past life, I lived there or something. But I just felt like I had to go, and I like rock and metal.
Mm-hmm.
So my favorite bands were from Finland, and when I listened to the lyrics and all this stuff that they write about, and because I was like, why do I like Finnish music? Like, why are all my favorite bands from Finland? Like, there has to be something there, that calls my attention so much.
Mm-hmm.
So when I read the lyrics and all this, when I was younger, I would imagine what it was like, how people live
Mm-hmm.
there, and how that would spark them to write about all this stuff. Like, because they write a lot about nature and the woods and animals and like all these amazing things. Um, so I don't know, it was always interesting to me. So by the time I went to Finland, I already knew a lot about the culture. And
Mm.
I felt like I understood how they live life. And then, of course, living there was like something else. But yeah, it was funny because I didn't really research that much about Finland to write this book.
Mm. Even when you was talking just now, sometimes people in places are like, "Oh, I want to go to America. I want to go to America," but your America was actually Finland.
It was funny because also my classmates, I remember they would make fun of people like, why do everybody like want to go to America, like to the US? Like they don't have anything good. Like they would like make fun of, not in a bad way, but like they're like
Mhm.
everything's better here. Like we don't want to go there. And if you think about it, there are not a lot of Finnish people in the US.
Mm-mm.
So they really see the US as like not first world, but like I always say like the US is really like second world and Finland is the real first world.
Mm.
Um, So it's funny how they see the US like in that
Hmm.
sense.
That's interesting. Because I heard that
Yeah.
country is very clean and they have a lot like
Oh
this a
yeah.
lot of stuff. Like, yeah.
And you read about it and you're like, ah, it can't be that good. But then you go and you realize it is good. I mean, it is like that. Like they're not lying.
Mm,
And of course, as good things, they have their bad things as well. You know, they're like the one of the top suicide countries in the world and all this.
mm.
Also because they have a lot of darkness and they barely see the sun, you know. Um,
Ah, sunlight.
but they're also the happiest country, and for like I think they've won that for like 7 years in a row. So
Hmm.
it's just very interesting to see the opposites and as above, so below. So
Mm. So
like
what was
that
that experience for
principle.
you? Do you went there during when they have the low sunlight season?
I went from August to December.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like fall and winter.
Mm-hmm.
So I did experience that. But I think since I have lived in Chicago before that,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as shocking.
Mm-hmm.
That like that first time that was the reason why I got depressed and went back to Mexico because I would go out of school at 3 p.m. and like there was no sun. But in Finland, I think I was just like I knew it was gonna be like that, so I was prepared mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I went with one of my best friends from school as well, so I wasn't really alone. And you went like you knew it was gonna be over, so you I would just enjoy it like
Mm-hmm.
twice as much. And in Chicago, it was like I was taken with my family, so I didn't really choose to go there, so it was different.
Mm. You have an interesting journey, by the way, there, Eva.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do.
And so, because we are all immigrants in that book, so we kind of have a different spin on life. We all came from different places. But I was thinking about, sometimes people overseas are like, oh, I want to go to America. I want to go to America, right? The American dream, the American dream. How do you feel about the American dream?
Don't ask me that. No, I mean, I'm very grateful to this country.
Hmm.
That's definitely, something I gotta say. But
Hmm.
that also made me realize how special my country is. Like Mexico is such a special country, and we have so many things um, that the US doesn't have.
Hmm.
And it's funny because now there's this phenomenon of like people from the US going to Mexico and
I talked to
moving,
a lot, even Canada, from Canada too. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it's funny because now if you go to, let's say, the city center or certain areas, now it's like I always tell my husband, like I hear more English in the streets in Mexico City than here in Miami. So it's starting to, yeah, I think it's like backwards now.
Hmm.
People started realizing that we had so many things that are very valuable as like peop connection with people, good food. People are always like happy, smiling, you know. Of course, we have our stuff, like our bad stuff as well.
Hmm.
But I think people just went and saw by like for themselves and like because before I think they were just based on the news and whatever they saw on TV.
Hmm. Hmm.
But when people actually go there and see it with their own eyes, it changes, the perspective. And they saw that it was not only what they saw in the news that Mexico has so much to offer and all these things that I miss here because it's definitely not the same. Like, yeah, the connection, even with your neighbors, like here it's just weird how people don't talk to each other, like even if they live next to you.
Hmm.
My neighbors are amazing and I do talk to them, but I've lived in other places or where, the neighbors don't even say hi
Hmm.
to you. And in Mexico, it's like you don't really see that. Everybody knows each other. Everybody, even it's a lot of community and this part that I really miss being here, even in Miami, where you would think it's more similar because we have a lot of Hispanic people here, but it's really not the same. So I do miss that. So the
Hmm.
American dream is true, but I think also. There are a lot of opportunities here that we don't have in Mexico, of course, mostly
Hmm.
economic, but it's also like choose your battle, right? Like you want to have more money, but maybe miss the people connection, or do you choose connection over money? Kind of thing. That's
Hmm.
how I see it now, I think.
Yeah, I have similar feelings to you. I think I'm grateful because this country changed my life too, right? Because I moved here when
Hmm.
I came from Jamaica and joined the military, served for 22 years, retired from it. But I'm like, yeah, this country took me a lot of places. It's a great passport I have, I tell you what, I tell you that. It's a great passport. I have a US passport.
Hmm.
So I'm totally grateful just like you. And but I want to tell people that some places around the world too, is that sometimes you don't know what you have in your local community until you go
Hmm.
somewhere else and then look back. Right. So
Hmm.
when we start doing the right thing, you're looking back like, wait a minute, you go back to your home country, like, wait a minute, there was so much stuff there, I just didn't see it. Because
Hmm.
I didn't have the eyes to see or compare to what was there to other places. Like, oh, my local economy back home was really awesome. I just didn't see the opportunities there.
That's why I
So
like the quote that
mhm.
I think you liked of see everything with tourist eyes. Like wherever you
Mm.
live, try to see it with tourist eyes. Like now I'm in Miami, like I try to see it with tourist eyes because when you get used to things,
Hmm.
you take it for granted and you don't see all these magical things that you have around you. And
Yeah.
so I like to always think um, that way.
Hmm. Yeah. You get to appreciate the gems. Oh man, I might not see
Mm.
this again because I'm traveling. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this last question before we wrap up here. So if so, why should somebody like take on the experience of reading your story? Like,
Ooh.
or maybe I'm gonna have another question after. Maybe I do two questions. Why should they take on the channel reading your story? And like, who's your book like speaking to directly? Like, who you want your book to speak to?
Hmm. The experience, I think it's a fun story. My life, I think it has been pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think yeah, it would help you navigate your own emotional journey in a different way. Hopefully realize that not everything is as it seems and
Mm-hmm.
that there's so much more to things that what you can see in the surface. As I we were saying, I like deep stuff, so I think
Mm-hmm.
I portray that in my story and I've lived in many places as we were just talking about and all that. So I think it's whoever reads my story will maybe if you're an immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
answering the other question immigrants, of course, and women especially. I think I also touched on a lot of my love life, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think anyone navigating complicated relationships, also I think that would be helpful for them, immigrants and women, especially because of what I do now with the
Mm-hmm.
cycle and all that. Um, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, just anyone who's having a hard time, whatever it is, maybe if you move somewhere and you don't know anyone, or you don't know what to do with your life and you're not happy with the job you have, it's like whoever's going through this transition, or a spiritual awakening, I think this would be for them.
Mm-hmm. I felt like I was going to a museum tour. You were showing me all the artifacts and stuff that you took. You pick up along the way, and we just like nice display and stuff. But it was pretty interesting, though, to read your story, and I felt like I know you even better
That
just from
too.
doing that.
Yeah, you can get
Yeah.
to know me a little more if you read my
Yeah.
story. And
Yeah.
everybody else's, of course, because we we
Hmm.
we were vulnerable, so I think that's also valuable and just to appreciate other people's lives and reflect on that on your own life.
Hmm. Okay. So last question before we wrap up here. So if somebody listen to us talking right now and like go get the book and they read the book, but then they're like, Eva, like, I want to hang around with you. I want to get to have you on the screen with me like this. So I can tell you about my story. You can tell me what you think about it. How can I reach you?
Yeah, so I don't know if you can put information somewhere that they can connect with me on social media or I
Hmm.
usually use my cycle stuff accounts. So it's
Hmm.
Havafem, HAVVAFEM.
Hmm.
You're free to message me there, or you can email me, Eva Mariana 13 at gmail.com. That's my personal email. I'm always, happy to connect with more people. I'll
Hmm.
be happy to read stories and give some tips and tricks and however I can help in service. I think I that's what I try to do every time I wake up every day, just to surrender and give that sense
Mm,
of service and just whatever comes. So whoever feels, that this resonates with them and want
mm,
to talk to me, I'm always open.
mm. Yes, we would love feedback from you guys. I read the book and just want to tell Eva what how you feel about her story. That would be awesome to hear too. Because we write the book so we can have a conversation with the world, right?
Hmm.
And see what people think and then get to know each other even more. So
I love talking to people and just connecting and just
yeah,
chatting. So even if
yeah.
it's just that, I'm down.
All right, cool. All right, folks, you're tuning to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, the place where we collect stories and circle life-changing wisdom. And today we get to do a recap on Eva's post-book launch energy. And she seems pretty chill and relaxed right now. So in a chair. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for, taking us on this journey and you're such an amazing leader too. And I think
Mm,
you change our lives for sure. And it's not easy to contain all this energy of so many different personalities and
mhm,
people from so many different places and so many different realities and schedules and so many
mm,
different things that happen in life. But I think you did a great job on guiding us through the process and holding us accountable and never really pushing us, like leaving that to us to decide if we wanted to do stuff, but at the same time,
mm,
always cheering for us. So I think you're great at what you do. So I hope you keep doing it with many more people.
mm. Thank you so much.
Of
That was
course.
heartfelt. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Eva. It means a
of
lot coming from you.
course.
Okay.